joining us again. Today we're just doing some Q&A and a little unpacking things that we've, Pat Stark and I have talked about in our manual, Lost Heart. And a lot of it has to do with connecting to your own heart so that you can connect to other people and connect to God and have really good, meaningful relationships. So as a mental health therapist, you know, me and you have done a lot of work with inner child. I know you've done counseling for 40 years. Actually more, I think, and in the church and different kinds of counseling. And I have people come to me and say, oh, Nicole, the inner child stuff, that's a bunch of psychological, you know, hogwash. And could you kind of explain what it really means when you talk about the younger self and parts of your younger self and the emotions of the younger self, like when you were 5 or 6?
Sure. When we grow up in a broken world, like we all do, we end up having hurts, traumas, situations that have wounded us through the years. If there has been nobody there to help us process them or walk them through, we end up having to bury them somewhere. And it's like we have closets within ourselves.
That's good.
And every time there's another wound, we put that in another closet and we lock the door.
And throw away the key.
And throw away the key.
We don't want anyone seeing it.
Absolutely.
Right, right.
And then circumstances hit us in our adult life and trigger the same emotions that were locked away with those memories. And when those emotions are triggered, the pain leaks out from under the door of those closets. And we have overreactions in present situations that are not, the situations don't call for that kind of reaction, but that's a real sign that it's coming from somewhere else.
Yeah, like I'll hear people say, I blew up, and it was over spilled milk, basically. It had nothing to do, it wasn't proportionate to what was going on.
Exactly. And so when that happens, that's usually God's way of getting us to the place that will start to ask the question, where's that coming from?
Right.
And if we'll allow him, he will very often bring us back to a random memory that we might have totally forgotten. But that a memory had emotions attached to it that were very painful.
Yeah.
Or it might have been an atmosphere. For instance, for me, I grew up with feeling a lot of rejection from my father. And it wasn't a memory, it was
just the whole
an atmosphere that I grew up in. So there was no memory to go back to. I had to go back to the atmosphere of my childhood that gave me a message, because those wounds give us a message about ourselves. And the message that wound gave me about myself was that I'm rejectable. So I lived my life
basically waiting to be rejected.
Absolutely, drawing it to myself even.
Yeah, and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, it happened for the first 30-some years of my life. I was rejected over and over because that's what I drew to myself.
And that's so big, because I even had a friend, she had called me and was like, you know, something had gone on with her husband, and she even said it was ridiculous. It was about like the cats in the laundry room, and you know, the husband got mad and was like, you know, saying something about this or that. And she said she was like in the laundry room, like crying, and it triggered a time back in her family where, like you said, like her father would just completely dismiss her, like not talk, you know, for days and this and that. And she said it brought up the same feelings, and she was able, you know, she had been working through some stuff, and she was able to connect that and be like, wow, this is my younger, I literally feel like when this happened when I was 5 or whatever age she was. And so it was really good that she could connect that and put the feeling, and then be able to process it with her husband and say, because he was like, why are you freaking out? Like, you're literally like losing it. I mean, she was losing it, and like, and so she was able to do that. And that's a really good thing. And it's a good thing to know, because I know before I even went on this journey of healing, I would have these things happening, and I'd be like, what was that? And then I would just revert back to shame. Like, well, you're a loser, Nicole. Like, you can't even manage your own, and you just went off on this person, and you can't figure it out. And because I didn't have the tools to know what actually was happening.
Yes, and the manual gives some tools to be able to finally get free of some of these things.
And it's funny because I do have a master's in psychology, so I did know about the inner child, but I too was one of those people that was like, oh, that's just for like, you know, psycho kind of, you know, I mean, I was kind of, you know, we studied about it, but until you actually walk it out and you're actually experiencing it, it's just knowledge up in your head. So I knew it up here, but then I was doing it and I was like, wait a minute, there is something way deeper going on inside of me that's really bringing all this to the surface.
And what happens is there's real freedom that comes from
total freedom.
That, because that part of ourselves that was separated then can start to grow again and get integrated.
Yes.
And I hear it all the time from people, I'm becoming more whole, I'm becoming more one, I'm not so separated inside. Yeah. Part of me wants this and part of me wants that. It's coming together.
Right.
And I'm able to make adult choices out of those things instead of
throwing a
5-year-old.
Right. Because I was literally throwing
I have done the same. Absolutely.
And I was like, wow, I am literally acting like my 4-year-old. Yeah. And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah. And because at that point you are 4 years old.
And what I would do, and this goes to what you just said, is I would literally reject, well, not only would I reject, you know, my 4-year-old, but I would reject that part of me. I would literally just shut it off, like you said earlier, in the closet and be like, don't want to see her.
Right.
Don't even want to feel those feelings, and I'm done with that.
Right. And there's an important thing with that, because however we were treated when we're young, we get that message and we begin to treat ourselves that way. So for instance, my father rejected me. I believed I was rejectable, so therefore I rejected me.
Yeah.
And that's who I brought to people, a rejected self. And we will bring whatever is in our heart, that's what we'll bring.
Yeah.
And then we try to get approval from out here, from other people, but
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Because even if you did get it, right, because even if you do get the approval, and I can relate to that a lot, you still wouldn't believe it. You'd be like, well, I hear they're saying it. It's almost like it's throwing a ball to the wall and it bounces right on. It can't penetrate.
It's never enough.
Yeah, it can't get in the wall or it can't go over the wall because it's not good enough or it's never enough.
Yes.
And that was one of my messages from the wounds was you're just not good enough.
Yeah.
You better bring more.
Yeah.
And you better do more or do this, you know. And so even as that little girl, when I'm throwing a tantrum, that's actually how I would feel. Like, you don't have what it takes.
Yes.
You're not capable.
Or you're too much and you better just bury it all.
Right.
Tone it.
Yeah.
And we never become who we are because these parts of us are locked away.
Wow, that is so good. If you have any other questions about what we're talking about today, the inner child or younger self, make sure you pick up a copy of The Lost Heart. It's a book that me and Pat wrote together. It's just a short little manual that you can actually like work through. There's questions and there's pictures and stuff, you know, little quotes. Pat has these great, you know, Patisms and one-liners, and so I like to take those and really chew on it and get it in our heart and kind of like walk through some of these things that if you're battling with or experiencing, definitely pick up a copy today. And thank you so much for joining us today for our question and answer session. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Get Heart TV. And if you would like to grab a copy of our book, Lost Heart, go ahead and click on the link below this video and you can grab your copy today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you won't miss a video. And until next time, get heart.